our Irish Society's Primary School podcast. I hope you enjoy our first podcast episode. My name is Caitlin Beverly Warwick. My name is Abigail Hope Mitchell. We are P5BR. Now let's get on with the podcast. Irish Society's podcast. Irish Society's podcast. Irish Society's podcast. Irish Society's podcast. Hi, my name is Nisha Kerr. In this episode, we will be focusing on how to protect and look after our beautiful planet. Thanks, Nisha. Well, my name is Otilia. It's an exciting and important thing for us to know more about. We will have fantastic interviews from local experts, tips for how to protect our environment, eco-hiking and kenning poems. Did you know factfiles, school, news, and even story time exclusive with Rosie and Will Agnew?
Hi, Leo Hall here. Before we begin, let's pass over to the Irish Society's news desk to hear the latest news.
News flash with Billy Glencourse from P5R.
Mr. Murdoch, the Irish Society School Principal.
Next Friday on the 10th of February will be the school dance-a-thon. Come in, be ready to boogie and have lots of fun. Walk into school and then dance out.
On Friday the 9th of February, the Irish Society football team will play their rearranged Docherty Shield fixture against Damhead Primary School. Best of luck to the school team.
On Wednesday the 1st of March, the book fair will arrive. Save your pocket money from today and find your new favourite book.
And from Tuesday the 28th of March to Thursday the 30th of March, some of our P7s will be jetting off to London. Have a wonderful trip. We know you will represent our school well and most importantly, enjoy your time there.
Finally, recharge the batteries over the February half-term. Don't forget our school will be closed from Monday the 13th of February to Friday the 18th of February. That's all from me, Billy Glencourse.
And for me, Mr. Murdoch.
That's all from us at the Irish Society's news desk.
Thanks, Billy. Great to hear about all of the exciting things happening in our school. Let me introduce you to our P5BR Eco Council Rep Ezra McIlvenna.
Hi everyone, my name is Ezra and I have recently been elected as an Eco School Rep. I really care about our planet. I'd like to share with you my top 5 Eco Warrior tips.
Number 1.
Compost your waste after snack time by using the brown bins.
Number 2.
Give up your plastic habits and make sure you only need one plastic water bottle by looking after it and making sure it doesn't get damaged.
Number 3.
Sort your waste into the right bin.
Number 4.
Elect an electricity monitor who will turn off lights and devices when they aren't needed.
And finally, our last tip, number 5.
Donate your unused toys and clothes to a local charity shop. That's all for me. Thank you for listening.
Hi everyone, I'm in P5 and my name is Rosie. Let me introduce you to my brother. Hi everyone, my name is Will and I am in P3. We are going to read you a story all about the dangers of plastic bags and how we can reuse plastic bags. The story is called Somebody Swallowed Stanley by Sarah Roberts. Stanley swept into the sea with a splish and a splash. Perhaps he's one of us, thought the other jellyfish. But his stripes are too straight and his tentacles too few. He just floated in the sea, not sure what to do. You see, Stanley was no ordinary jellyfish. Then something terrible happened. Somebody swallowed Stanley. But who could it be? Her tongue was as rough as barnacles, her mouth was as vast as a cave, and she hummed her low song. Stanley tried to be brave. So who had swallowed Stanley? The creature stopped singing as Stanley slid down her slimy throat. She coughed and she spluttered, and then, whoosh! With a rush and a rumble, steam burst from her spout. A whale had swallowed Stanley, but now he was out. Stanley dropped with a splash back into the sea, where he bobbed along gently, calm and carefree, until something terrible happened. Somebody swallowed Stanley, but who could it be? With a sharp yellow beak and a small beady eye, the creature flapped his wings and rose up to the sky. But who had swallowed Stanley? He pecked and then snapped, and he nipped, but Stanley wouldn't go down. More creatures flew over, first 2 and then 3. In all the flapping and squawking, they let Stanley be. A seagull had swallowed Stanley, but now he was free. Poor Stanley was ripped up, scruffy and torn. He sank and he sank and he sank down some more. But something terrible happened before he reached the sea floor. Somebody swallowed Stanley again. But who could it be? Her paddle-shaped flippers skimmed the seabed. She had a beautiful shell and a small wrinkly head. So who had swallowed Stanley? She gasped and she spluttered, then started to choke too. But Stanley was stuck without much he could do. A turtle had swallowed Stanley. The creature was scared and swam quickly to shore. With Stanley stuck in her throat, she couldn't breathe anymore. The turtle closed her eyes and lay down in the sand. But then Stanley heard footsteps. Help was at hand. A kind boy on the beach came and tugged Stanley free. But then Stanley heard, plastic doesn't belong in the ocean blue. Creatures think you're a jellyfish and swallow you. Now with the rope and a branch he made something new. A kite! Flying high in the air, Stanley soared to and fro, safe from the sea and all the creatures below.
Hi, Ian here. Thanks for that wonderful story, Rosie and Will. That had a great message about dangers of throwing away plastic bags. Let's reduce by reusing. Next up, we have some of our P5 pupils reading the Kenning and Haiku poems. They all link to our polar regions topic. Why don't you see if you can work out the polar animal the poem is describing?
The Very Fluffy One by Annie MacDonald. Seal hunter, excellent smeller, strong swimmer, great shaker, fast runner, meat eater. Who am I?
Icy Seas by Georgie Glenn. The Southern Ocean, as freezing as an ice cube, freezing temperature.
Eco-Friendly by Tom Kelly. Be eco-friendly. Stop using one-use plastic. We need to stop now. The Group by Finn Craig. Family loving, horns crashing, coals wandering, strong battling, what am I?
Tommy Tuxedo by Lena Pierzowska. Fish Eater, Wobbly Walker, Feather Laser, Super Diver, Ice Slider.
Fact File with Freddie Bird and Tom Lamont.
Did you know around 27,000 trees are cut down each day?
Did you know humans use only 1% of all available water?
Did you know 78% of marine mammals are at risk of choking on plastic?
Did you know Americans throw away 25 trillion styrofoam cups?
Did you know only 9% of all plastic is recycled? 12% burned and the remaining 79% is dumped in landfills.
Did you know 160,000 plastic bags are used every second?
Did you know digging for oil kills marine reptiles?
Fact File by Mia Wolf and Hannah Carter. A glass bottle can take up to 1 million years to decompose. Did you know recycling one glass bottle saves enough energy to power a normal light bulb for about 4 hours? Did you know humans only use 1% of all available water? Did you know on average one supermarket goes through 60 million paper bags each year? Did you know paper from trees can be recycled 6 times?
Hi, my name is Lucia Bingham. I'm going to interview my papa and ask him questions all about our environment. Could you please introduce yourself?
My name is Wavell Moore. I'm married to Wendy Moore and we've lived in Coleraine for over 50 years, and as well as everything else I've done, I'm the very proud papa of 9 grandchildren, and Lucia Bingham is one of those.
Before you retired, what was your job?
Well, Lucia, I worked for Coleraine Borough Council for many years, but my whole career was in local government. But in my final years in Coleraine, I was chief executive of the council. So that gave me a chance to see everything that was going on in the council and be involved in all the council work.
In the council, did they ever talk about the environment?
Yes, Lucia, they did indeed, because the environment was a very important part of the work of the council. If the whole issue of waste and litter, councils were responsible for that, and it was increasingly becoming an issue as to how we look after our environment best, and especially in an area like Coleraine, Portstewart, Portrush, where we're blessed with a really lovely environment. I think there was an extra impetus to look after the beautiful coastline and the beautiful mountains and forests that we have, so it was always a high priority within council. Now, it's probably very hard for you to imagine this, but back in the 1980s, we didn't have any recycling, we didn't have any separation of our waste. We had only one bin, and that rubbish was taken to a big hole in the ground called a landfill site and just buried. And all of that was going in to pollute the ground. But in those days, we started to separate our waste, and that's why you now have different coloured bins, brown and blue and black, so that the waste is separated. Some of it is recycled as green waste. That's where your trees and your food waste goes in and it becomes compost and is used again. Glass and plastic, again recycled for use, and only the minimum amount now goes actually to the hole in the ground.
What do you think about the environment and what could we do to help?
Oh, the environment is a very big word, Lucia, and it covers a lot of things. And it's not just boys and girls at school, it's adults, it's countries, it's continents, it's across the world. It's a really global issue. And sometimes when we hear so much in the news about the big things that are affecting the climate, it takes our mind away from the fact that in the middle of that word environment, there are 2 little letters called ME. So it's about me. It's about what I can do, what you can do to help the environment. And rather than think about the big things sometimes we hear in the news, it's good to break it down to the things we can actually do something about. But if everyone plays their part, it will mean that globally there's a chance of success. It still will be very difficult, but we can change the world for our own environment, at least, if we can't have the global impact that we thought we might have. But no, very important, we don't give up and we concentrate on what we can do, not what we can't do.
Since you have retired, Papa, have you been doing anything for the environment?
Well, Lucia, I've been doing some things for the environment, but I've really been doing them for local government in general. When I retired, I didn't really want to stop working, and I was very fortunate to have the chance to travel to other countries to pass on some of the local government knowledge. And I've been to countries like Kosovo and Serbia and Cyprus and Macedonia and Israel. And many of the issues are around the environment there because they were further behind than us in looking after the environment. So we were trying to give them ideas about all the local government policies, but especially about environmental issues.
Have you ever met the King or late Queen?
Well, Lucia, I was very fortunate in my job because sometimes members of the royal family came to visit in Coleraine, and part of my job was to meet the members of the royal family and welcome them to the borough. So yes, I've had the opportunity on a number of occasions actually to meet the Queen and other members of the royal family.
Very good, Papa, but you have to tell us about the MBE.
Well, I was hoping you weren't going to mention that, Lucia, but in 2022 I was awarded an MBE, and all I can say to you is all it really said was for public service in the UK and abroad. So I think it was a little bit of a recognition of my time in local government locally, and also what I went on to do after my main job. So it was very nice, and had a very nice day at Windsor, and it was actually the King who presented me with the MBE. So it's quite nice to say that I've been privileged enough to meet the King and the Queen.
Hi, my name is Josh Horton. My dad has got a really interesting job. It's all about the environment. I interviewed my dad about his job, and here's what he had to say. What is your name and what age are you?
My name is Mark Horton and I'm 43 years old.
Ah, that's so old, Dad, but are you eco-friendly?
Well, I try to be, like everybody tries to be eco-friendly. We do lots of recycling at home, and we try to use things that have been used before, reusing things, but my job is all about being eco-friendly.
Oh, that's interesting. So what is your job?
So I manage a charity, an environmental charity, called Ballinderry Rivers Trust, and we look after the Ballinderry River in Cookstown, in County Tyrone.
So what do you do in your job?
Well, the Ballinderry River in Cookstown is one of lots of rivers in Northern Ireland, but there's lots of pollution that gets into the river, and the animals that live in the river find it really hard to survive. So we work with all the people that live and work along the Ballinderry River to try and reduce the amount of pollution that gets into the water. And that pollution comes from lots of places. It comes from farms, it comes from houses, it comes from factories. But we go and we speak to those people and we say, can we help you to reduce the amount of pollution getting into the river?
So that's interesting why you're always talking about fish. So you really love fish?
Well, fish are actually a really important part of my job because there's lots of different types of fish in the Ballinderry River. And we have for many, many years bred those fish to put them back into the river. And we used to release thousands and thousands of them years and years ago. But as time's gone on, we've learned that actually what we need to do is more of the water quality work and more of the habitat work, and the fish that are in the river will be able to do better on their own. But we do still breed fish for a very special reason, because we breed another animal called the freshwater pearl mussel, and that one really, really needs a lot of help.
So what is a freshwater pearl mussel?
Well, that's a really interesting question because lots of people have never even heard of them. But a freshwater pearl mussel is a bit like the mussels you find in the sea, but it lives in freshwater. And they can live for up to 150 years. So that means that some of the mussels that are in the Ballinderry River today were born when the Titanic set sail from Belfast. That's how old they are. But all that pollution that I was telling you about has hurt those mussels over the years, and also they need the fish in order to survive because they have a relationship with the fish. So you have to have the fish there in order for the mussels to be successful. So do you want me to tell you a little bit about how they live with the fish?
Yes, please.
So the mussels that live in the river, when they have their babies, spit them out into the water like microscopic baby mussels, and all of those baby mussels have to attach to the gills of a fish. And in the Ballinderry River, it's the trout that they attach to. And they stay on the gills of the fish for 9 months, and then they fall off and they bury down into the gravel. So if the fish weren't there, the babies would have nothing to attach to, and they couldn't complete that part of their life cycle. So in order for the mussels to survive, we also need the fish to be there as well.
So you mentioned pollution in the river. Is plastic a problem?
Well, you know, you've seen on the television pictures in the sea of fish getting caught up in carrier bags. Well, that's not what we see in the river, but it's a different type of problem with plastic. There's a thing called microplastics, and they're tiny, tiny bits of plastic. You'd nearly have to look down a microscope to see them. And the reason they're there is because the plastic bags and the other plastic things that have got into rivers have broken down into tiny, tiny pieces. The river mashes them up into tiny, tiny pieces. And they're so small that when the fish are swimming about in the river, they actually take them in through their mouth and into their stomachs. And so these microplastics are filling up the stomachs of animals in the river, and they're a bit like hollow calories. They're not actually getting anything from it. So it's a real problem for those animals. And I actually learned an interesting fact myself not so long ago. We eat fish, don't we? And did you know that a human being eats enough plastic, microplastic, from animals that it eats in a year that you could actually create a credit card out of it?
Before you go, Dad, is it true that you're an MBE?
Well, yes. I don't talk about it all the time, do I? Because I'm a bit shy about it. But I was really, really lucky to be invited to Buckingham Palace to meet who was then Prince Charles, is now King Charles. And he gave me an award for services to conservation. And that's an MBE. So I'm very, very lucky to have that. And really, really appreciate it.
My papa's more awesome than your dad. He's an MBE. No, my dad's more awesome than your papa because he's an MBE. Wait, I know. Papa and Dad are both awesome. Thanks for coming on, Dad and Papa.
Charlie Bell here. Thanks for listening. That's a wrap. See you next time. Bye!